sessions on Agentic AI. I'm delighted to welcome back Daniel Bolojan. Daniel, as you may know, is an assistant professor at Florida Atlantic University in Fort Lauderdale. His background is that he originally comes from Romania. He was at the Minko, then moved to Angewandte in Vienna to study under Zaha Hadid and Patrick Schumacher. He then went on to work for Coop Himmelblau and became the lead AI expert on the Deep Himmelblau project. He is now the founder of Versur, the first agentic AI platform that I know of, certainly in architecture. This is a very significant step for architecture. For the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months, everyone in the world of AI has been talking about agentic AI. This, they say, is the future. It is now very much the present. We now live in the world of agentic AI. But it's something that really is a little bit difficult for architects to engage with. Computationally, you have to be quite advanced to be able to handle it. And what Daniel has done is to effectively to package it in a way that becomes a user-friendly use of agentic AI. I just want to stress the importance of this, or the potential importance, should I say, of this particular moment, in that we see what is effectively a paradigm shift in architectural in the production of architectural design. If we look back on the kind of the story of the introduction of computation into the world of architecture, going back to the very early days. Even before computation, the world was quite straightforward. We were working with plans, sections, elevations, iteratively in a very kind of linear process. And then the introduction of CAD, the introduction of BIM, and so on, effectively, actually, we maintained that similar structure. It became computational, but the process was pretty much the same. The big change came, of course, with generative AI, where the architect changes from being the creator to the curator, generating outcomes, sampling from those outcomes, and then taking something further forward, testing it out, and so on and so on. This is another radical step in that genealogy, because with agentic AI, something very, very different happens. The architect changes from a curator to an orchestrator of agents. And what those agents are doing is basically designing with the architect and testing it out iteratively for different constraints, environmental constraints, structural constraints, aesthetic constraints, and so on and so on and so on. So in other words, the architect now remains in charge, and the process produces something that is already itself, as it were, performing. We go from, so in other words, what we get now is performance informing design. It's not just a question of, or informing form. It's not a question of generating form and then trying to make it work properly. It's generating form that is already performing in some way. So this is potentially a massive change in the way that the architecture operates. We're yet to see how it feeds into practice itself, but this is historic in many ways because this is the first step forward, step in that direction. Daniel introduced Versur 2 weeks ago. Today, this is going to be a tutorial illustrating how the platform can be used. So welcome, Daniel. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Neil. It's great to be here, everyone. So this session is going to mostly be an introductory kind of session. I'm really trying, in a way. I'm aware that a lot of these kind of topics are very, very new in our field. So I'm trying, in a way, to make sure that I'm introducing, in a way, some of this concept and how you can perhaps start to think about Versur. So similar, or I'm going to repeat perhaps certain things that Neil already mentioned. Versur can be seen as a visual composable agentic AI platform that is designed for designers, for architects to create architectural or design workflows. So it enables user to construct their own custom kind of agents with very minimal kind of coding needed by using a different kind of reusable or assembling, in a way, different reusable kind of blocks. And you have then all these kind of options of agents, tools, knowledge bases, memory, and models that can be orchestrated into workflows that support more complex, let's say, multi-agent reasoning and design processes. So in the end, the goal, the vision of Versur is to make agentic AI more accessible to architects, and also not only to make it more accessible, but also allow architects to develop their own kind of intelligences, because currently we are always dealing with this kind of mode of operation where you have one big model that imposes in a way, or we are trying to use, but it doesn't really allow for so much customization that very often, like in the messiness of practice, in especially architectural practice, that messiness that we deal with every single day, those kind of models perhaps they are not able to address that well, that aspect. So then Versur is trying in a way to offer a sort of idea of you can build your own kind of agents by using different kind of components. Now, one thing to be mentioned about Versur is also, let me just jump to right at the beginning. One thing to mention about Versur is also that the goal is not necessarily only agentic AI, because I'm aware that the reality of practice, again, in some instances, we need processes that they're just super streamlined kind of processes, just connecting different kind of models together. And in other instances, it makes sense to have an agentic system in a way. So the platform kind of allows, in a way, this kind of range of possibilities. If you have to create a simple kind of workflow that is just creating for you a couple of variations of something without being necessarily fully agentic, the platform allows for that. Or if you have to create something more advanced, like an agentic system, the platform allows for that, offering like different kind of memory functionality and knowledge functionality, how the system updates and so on. Yeah. So I see it as, this is a sort of customization that I think, like I mentioned, the messiness of practice in architecture especially requires, in a way, a system that is flexible enough for that. So what I like to do is I don't want to necessarily go through too much theory today. Perhaps I'm just going to, refer here and there back and forth between a couple of ideas. But mostly I just want to open Versur and just go through certain kind of concepts in Versur for first-time users in a way to understand perhaps how to think about it, how to work with it, and so on. Yeah. So here you see this kind of comments or titles, and I think like Neil was mentioning, we are probably at the cusp of a major kind of shift in architecture. And if you think about what computation did in architecture, and especially Grasshopper, it kind of externalized relationships. It allowed us to directly, in a way, define and control relationship between parts, between objects, or other kind of aspects. I think what new paradigm of agentic, what that's going to do is going to allow us to externalize reasoning, architectural reasoning, and allow us in a way to iterate in a way in that kind of reasoning. So like that, in a way, as a designer, I can build up a sort of design workflow, sort of thinking, and then have a system that can iterate and think with me through that kind of process. So what I would like to do is let me just jump into. Okay, let's here. Yeah. So what I mean by composable, Versur has multiple types of blocks that it's working with. So you have perception blocks, you have reasoning blocks, generation blocks, evaluation, memory, orchestration. So these are all kind of components that are required in a way, perhaps to when we talk about an agentic system. Now, a user could decide to only engage with generation blocks, for example, or another user can just combine generation with evaluation. And that's what I mean in a way the system allows that kind of flexibility. If a user wants to create a fully agentic where it uses memory and evaluations and orchestration, reasoning, and so on, the user can engage in that kind of process. Or if the user wants to explore something more streamlined, more simple, that can be done as well. So really, Versur allows in a way that kind of flexibility. So and before we jump into trying to define in a way certain concepts and ideas, let's see what I'd like to do is perhaps I'm going to I'm going to just share my screen again, and I'm going to share Versur. Probably, yeah, it will be better just to open desktop. Okay. Let's hide this. Am I sharing the desktop now? Okay. Sorry, I'm on a Mac, so I'm not the most comfortable with Mac. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to open Versur here. All right. So let's just log in there. So currently, Versur, it's in beta version, and there are a couple of people, a couple of hundreds that have access actually to Versur currently. And if you don't have access currently to Versur, then please do sign up on the wait list. And we are going to make sure that once we are done with this first phase of beta, we are going to be able to invite you as well to join, to log in or to create your own account on Versur. So because this is a beta version, just keep in mind that what that means is that the core functionality of Versur, I will say it's stable, but there are still perhaps here and there a couple of things that are a bit buggy. So keep in mind that the platform is not yet ready for general release, let's say, and that's why we are in a beta version at the moment. So when you are going to open Versur, by default, you are going to have something like this created, yeah? And you are going to see like this kind of node or block called input. And what this block does, this is almost like the gateway into Versur. So this is like if you have external kind of services that you want to send information to Versur, you can send it through this kind of gateway. So because of that, when you open here the three dots, you'll see what you have here. You have this kind of option of selecting which is the mode that you want to operate. So you want to operate like a chat to interact with this as a chat or as just as manual, yeah. And why that's important is because soon I'm going to release, this kind of like option of deploying the workflows that you're developing in Versur to deploy them as their own API. So you can connect in a way from Rhino, from Revit, from Maya, from any kind of softwares. You can directly send in a way an API call to Versur, and it's going to automatically in a way start to trigger the workflow. So in that way, in a way, you'll have a super nice kind of integration between different kind of softwares. Yeah. So here again, that's what this block is. So every kind of workflow that you're going to build is going to always start with the input, and that's the reason behind it. Because Versur is intended to be this kind of platform that in the end starts to connect to other existing kind of tools that we are engaging as architects. So because of that, we need, this kind of like a gateway, to be able to stream things. Other things to mention before I go super detail about blocks. At the moment, you always have the tools, all the blocks in a way that are available. You can find them either by clicking here on the plus button or by pressing the space bar, and you'll have here all these kind of blocks. So different kind of blocks that some of them they are just simple orchestration flow kind of blocks. They help in a way with that kind of aspect. Or you have blocks that are just based on they deal with knowledge. How do I extract knowledge? For example, if I have a database somewhere that I want to use that as a knowledge to increase or to enhance the intelligence of the agent that I'm working with, then you have those kind of blocks. If you want to create an agentic system, that requires then also memory, you have then different kind of blocks that allows you to build that kind of memory of the agent. Or if you want to like have a more efficient kind of way of how the agent is searching in a way for information and for knowledge base, you have this kind of embeddings, which embeddings means a sort of way of how you are converting text information, let's say, into vectors that the machine is able to read quite fast. Yeah. So you have different kind of types of blocks. As you can see, you have like reasoning blocks, like agents, and evaluation kind of blocks like aesthetic evaluation or just evaluator. So you have quite a few, in a way, building blocks that you can work with. And yeah, today I'm going to show a couple of examples of how those are being used. Now, another important thing is that you'll see here when you open Versur for the first time, probably you're just going to have one workspace or a couple of workspaces and a default agent. So you can think of like any kind of workflow that you're building here. You can think of it as purely just a workflow, depending now on the complexity how you're building it. That could be just a workflow, or it could be an agent. And the idea is that these are all separate. So if I'm going here and create a new workflow, you'll see I have now a separate workflow. And all these are separate because, as I mentioned at the beginning, the goal of this is to be able to connect now either like one individual agent like this to other kind of external services like Maya, Revit, and so on, or internally to be able to connect in a way agents among themselves. Yeah. So that's the step where we start to talk about orchestration and, and nesting in a way agents and so on. Yeah. So that's in a way the strategy here. Every single workflow that you're building could become an agent and could be exposed as an API endpoint that you can use in a different kind of service. All right. So other things that are important, and I think as starters, it's always like important to perhaps look at the templates. So here the templates is almost like a marketplace, but it's not a marketplace in the sense of like selling things. It's just as a user, you can publish if you want the workflows that you build, and everyone from the community, then everyone that uses Versur, they are going to be able to see in a way these workflows, and they can easily in a way use those workflows. Currently, I prepared here getting started set of templates. And what these are doing is they're just showing like different kind of ways of how you can use different kind of blocks. Yeah. So I can, for example, just bring this in. I'm just saying use, and you see automatically it's creating for me, it's creating a copy of that workflow from the template. And now as a user, I can use this, I can run it. Yeah. So if I'm looking at this, or not even looking at it, perhaps we should go back to the template here. And I think I use this one. So if you click on it, you have here a short description that is trying to do. So right now, you're just demonstrating a very simple example of how the aesthetic agent works. It takes, in a way, certain input, like an image or something, and then it's able to evaluate based on certain criteria that we can define over here. And I'm going to go over what these are. But as you can see, there are certain criteria that are defined over here that then the agent is going to analyze, that image against those criteria. So if I were just to run something, let me just grab a prompt. Typically, I have this generic prompt with a pavilion overlooking a cliff or something, and that's why probably you see a lot of examples of that. But that's the generic tool that generic prompt that I'm always using to test this. So as you can see here, this setup right now it's by default. I saved it as a chat start instead of a manual. If it's a manual, you see I can only click on it and it's not going to work. But if it's chat, I can type in here the prompt and then just press generate. And you'll see what's going to happen is that right now the setup, the way it is just a simple workflow. This is not, I wouldn't call this agentic. It's just a workflow that simply then generates an image. Then you have an aesthetic evaluator that evaluates that outcome against certain criteria that were defined. Now, these criteria, you can define your own criteria. Currently here, I just have a few predefined ones, but you can create your own criteria and define them. Okay, so let's close this. So pretty much then, you have all this kind of library of templates that you can work with. And also, like if you create a sort of workflow that you like to share with everyone, then you can easily share that by simply just going to publish templates, and then you're going to have the option to publish that into the template kind of library. Yeah, so this is something that I'll say a sort of way of how you can think and how you can work with Versur. It's perhaps if this is the first time working with Versur, just open a template and try in a way to play around with it, change a couple of things and see in a way how that works. Yeah, and then later I'm going to keep on publishing more and more tutorials, going into more and more advanced kind of topics of how to use the platform. Okay, so let me switch back to a simple. There you go. All right. So other things that perhaps are important for you to know. Personally, I like to have this kind of dark background. You see also in the back, I have a wall that is all black. And in the school here, there is a name for that. It's called Bolojan black. So because also my AI lab, it's all painted black. My office here is black. So people make jokes that, that's Bolojan black. So I like, in a way, always this kind of more dark kind of interfaces. But in case that this bothers you and is something that, is not comfortable to your eye, then you can easily just go here into profile and just change, in a way, the theme, and you're going to have this kind of more lighter kind of theme, Daniel. And probably I'm going to leave it like this for the duration of the tutorial, because I know that many people prefer something lighter than dark. Okay, so you have that kind of option. Now here you see Versur. It's a multi-editor platform, meaning that here we have a node editor. Then we have also a page called Canvas. And what the Canvas is for, let's do the same thing, start an empty canvas. So what Canvas is, you can build your own workflows in the node editor. And the reality of practice and reality of design is that not all the time it's the most comfortable to engage with node-based. Yeah, sometimes yes, and this is, I'm saying also from my own experience as a designer, sometimes I love engaging with node-based and designing like that. But other times I need a mode that is very intuitive, very friendly, very easy to use. So then what you have here, you have the canvas that allows you to create like blocks, like rows that you can work with. So for example, here these are all like this kind of standard kind of text to image kind of models that, let's say I'm just creating an image here. So that's quite easy then for me to generate. So like that, I don't have to go perhaps through, if I just have to ideate very fast and things, I don't have to go through the entire kind of workflow process. Or if I already have a workflow that I defined, if I already have a workflow that I define in the node editor, I can bring in a way that workflow in here. So I can open a workflow row, and if the workflow is deployed, then I can, in a way, select from here which is the workflow that I want to work with. So for example, I can select knowledge base RAG. Yeah, so you'll see here all the blocks that are defining in a way that workflow are there. So I can run it then from this kind of interface. This is again like the reality of practice. I know that not all architects are very technical. The same thing happened also with computation when it comes to Grasshopper. We ended up with a couple of people in the office actually being very, very savvy when it comes to computation. And a majority of the architects, they didn't enjoy engaging with Grasshopper. So like this, then the hope is that if you use this kind of platform, you can have your very savvy kind of users, super users, developing their own kind of workflows, and those workflows then can be deployed for your practice easily. And other architects and employees, they can use these workflows with a very friendly kind of interface without having to go through the hustle of node based and so on. Yeah. So here, other thing that this does allows you to create a hierarchy. So you can create hierarchies between rows, and you can create your own rows. Let's see, I hope that is not going to, there you go, yeah. So you can create like different kind of hierarchy, nesting kind of structures. I see that here I have to change a bit the text when it comes to color. But as you can see, you have multiple types of blocks that you can work with. You can also, if you want to explore just code, like this is the idea of like playing with generative versus more deterministic kind of methods. So here, if I'm trying to create just a code, let's say I'm going to, for now, just output one. I'm going to say create a vector field. So you can easily then, engage with these kind of models then that allows you to create like different kind of generative design, perhaps ideas. So if I'm pressing like L, I can switch between normal mode and focus mode, or large and then focus mode. And I can then simply run in a way this simulation by just clicking, and I'm going to have that. If I need to change in a way the code, I can easily just use this kind of embedded agents versus Versur agents that are embedded throughout the entire interface. I can engage with it and say, I want to have the background black. And this is then going to be a sort of like code editor that you can easily engage with. And as you can see, it's giving you this kind of idea of where it made changes in the code, and suggestions where it added in a way. And then as a user, you can always accept or deny that. So you can switch. And now, as you can see, we have just black background. And we can have like a simulation that it's pretty much that, yeah. So I can then, in a way, like using this kind of Versur agents that you have on the platform, you can then edit the code without necessarily being, like an expert in coding or something. You can use natural language to drive that. And why these are important is because sometimes, like working with different kind of models, you need just an image. You can generate that image by using code rather than generating. So there are different kind of other rows here. I don't want to go down in all of them, but this one, it's a sort of similar with the workflow. It's just that it's a workflow that is more friendly. It's rather than connecting blocks in a graph, it's connecting them in rows, and it can swap in a way, move up and down the rows. Yeah. So for example, I can say, I want to create a image of, let's see, do I still have, yeah, there you go. And I want to create variations and a video. So you'll have, these kind of Versur agents that are running in the background then, and trying, to build up, this kind of very simplified kind of workflow for you. Which again, like I said, as a user, perhaps you find this more comfortable, and you can look then at, is this something that I'm happy with or not, and you can then choose that. Yeah. So you can swap this in case that you see, okay, this is not the order. I want first to have the video. I can swap them, and this pretty much is doing similar thing that a node base will do. It's just that the connections are happening in the background without you as a user interfacing with them. And this is a more friendly kind of interface than for people that are not perhaps so into that kind of node base, yeah, and allows you to create a similar kind of idea like those. Okay. And you can here like establish, if you want to say, I want step 3 to connect to both step 1 and 2, as you can see here. You have it connecting to step 1 and 2 as well. It's a more intuitive kind of way of working. And the last thing that I'll show here, again, you have this no mode of always, you can go into a normal mode, focus mode, and then you have this kind of idea of, in architecture, very often like perspectives are super important. So I can easily then, try to generate like perspectives of sides of that kind of input that I have, and I can literally almost like rotate around the entire kind of building. Or you have this kind of method that sometimes it's working, sometimes it doesn't. So I have to. That's why we're in beta version. Sometimes, for example, you can just specify the angle and try to generate that. And you'll see that right now, perhaps it's not really going to do it as well as expected. And this is the reason, like we are still in beta at the moment. If I want to do it like that, perhaps it's going to have it's going to be able to do it better if I'm just looking from top down. Yeah. But this allows you then to in very intuitive kind of way, allows you to play with a kind of geometry inputs that you have. Yeah. And here, as you can see, you always have multiple runs. You're going to have them stored per row. So like that, it's almost like each row, it's almost like an exploration. And we can, visualize, those explorations just like that. Yeah. So if I want to go back to the first image and then from there start to create the perspectives, I can do the same. I just have to go in focus mode, which is press F, and then camera, and then so it allows you in a way more controlled, more intuitive kind of control over it. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to show this later. I don't want to spend too much time on the canvas. But here you can always like also minimize this. If you press W, you can minimize them. If you have them nested, you can easily then create this kind of hierarchies between them. And you can nest in a way this just by pressing F. Yeah. So like that, or you can collapse them completely. So you have different kind of explorations that you explore. So you have a very nice like way of managing that. Right. So I kind of deviated quite a bit, but the most important part is to know that when you work with workflows, then you can bring these kind of workflows that you're deploying. You can bring them into your canvas and use them there. Okay. So let's go back to the node based. All right. So for me, this is the part where the most interesting part of it, just because this is the part where you can build intelligence in a way. So right now, Versur gives you the ingredients, and it's up to you in a way to define which is the recipe and what you want to cook. To use the slang of these times, yeah, like we are cooking here. Then let's see other aspects of Versur perhaps that are pertinent to that. For many of you, probably it's going to be quite hard to deal with this. I haven't provided yet a documentation, like a website with documentation or something. But what you can do is you can always just go here to the chat, and the chat gives you like the option to interact. It's another agent that is able to read and understand all the blocks and everything Versur. So you just ask it, what is the purpose of the workflow? And it's going to give you, in a way, like it's going to go through. So you can say, what does the package block do? So in case that, you open some templates and you're not sure in a way what those templates are and what they are doing, you can always like just go through the chat and interact with the chat to perhaps uncover ideas about what that is doing. And at the same time, if you have other workflows that are not necessarily open, you can always tag a workflow. You can tag a workflow, let's say agent, this one, creation, the workflow. Yeah, so it's going to explain in a way the workflow variation perspective agent. Yeah. So like this, you can always like, link and connect, and interact, with this kind of agent in the entire platform, yeah. Now, there's also here a mode that currently I haven't released it yet for beta. It's still like in alpha, I'll say mode, is still under development. But this is the blog that is going to make your life easy, just because you're going to be able to have an agentic system there, an agent that is able to reason through like the request that you're going to send. Let's say you're saying, I'm trying to create a sort of like a workflow that it's solving a certain architectural problem. And you're going to have that agent in a way helping you build the entire workflow. Yeah. So it's going to start to create the components for you, the blocks. It's going to start to fill up the parameters inside the blocks. It's going to create the connection between the blocks. And then it's also going to debug with you in case that there are certain issues. You can just say it's not working, there's an error, and it's going to help you in a way debug. So that's going to be probably one mode of operation that is going to really help a lot of you. Okay, but let's go back here now. So let's see now, how do we build something simple as a block or something? Yeah. Perhaps I can switch back to the presentation then here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create here in Versur, I'm going to create something that we call an agent block. So I'm just clicking on the existing block, the input. And the reason why I click on it, because I want, when I create the new agent, I want it to be automatically connected to it. So if I do it like that, it's going to be automatically connected. If I don't do that, if I don't click on it and just say agent, it's going to be dropped in the canvas without being, connected. Okay. If you have to delete blocks, by the way, you always have to use Control and Delete. So like that, in a way, just preventing in case that you're deleting by mistake certain things. Okay. So we have this agent. So if I expand now here, this is where we have all the kind of inputs, fields, and parameters that we can set in a way for this agent. So before then, we go into this agent. So let's see what we mean by agents and sort of perhaps ideas behind like what we mean by these things. Yeah. So by default, when we work with GPT or language models, by default, this is a sort of schema, very simplified schema of what exactly the system that you're engaging with is. Yeah. So pretty much what you have a user input, and then you have a system prompt. And a system prompt is almost like something where, say, you are a art critic. From now on, everything that I'm writing, you have to respond to me like an art critic. So that's sort of system prompt. Yeah, you're just giving a system prompt to a language model and try to steer it or make it in a way react or respond in a certain way. Yeah. So that's when we say a system prompt, pretty much that's what we are referring. It's a sort of basic instruction that makes the model in a way respond in a certain way. Now, when we say an agent, what is an agent? So an agent, we can think of it as a sort of a type of let's say block that can handle an entire task from start to end. Yeah. So it's able to use capabilities like a language model. It's able to use tools, memory, other kind of methods, other kind of tools and methods and techniques to solve in a way a problem that the user is kind of inputting. So then when we look at how that looks like, when it comes to an agent, then we are looking at it something like this. So we have an agent that has a brain, which is the language model, has a tool, and has memory. And that memory can be updated and so on, yeah? So I know that the topic of memory probably is quite complex, so I'm not going to really cover it today, but I'm going to show you like how to create a simple kind of agent that perhaps doesn't have memory, so it's not just fully agentic, but has in a way a sort of ability to plan, to reason, to use tools available to it, and so on. Yeah. So let's see how we build something like that. Yeah. So if you want to create just an assistant, you can just go in here and say, you are a creative director helping with enhancing prompts for, let's say, a journey. Okay, so it's almost like, okay, that's your instruction. Now, what's happening is that if I'm setting here something, you see right now by default we are in the run manual. So if I just run something here, if I just press click, no input from my side was sent to that agent. So it's just generating a generic kind of answer because it was not able to process anything. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to connect now my input to the agent. And to be able to do that, I just go here to input. I'm selecting chat. And once I select chat, you see here, the input bar here at the bottom, you have now a field that is active where I can input a prompt, yeah? So if I paste my favorite prompt now, let's see, let's just copy this one. If I input that, so what's going to happen, like this agent now, as you can see, I just sent the information, but the agent is just saying, got it. But that means it doesn't mean anything. It didn't generate anything. So the reason why it didn't generate anything, because as you can see here, we have different kind of fields that we have to fill up the information, yeah? So if I have it set to manual, and I want to send the prompt to the user, to the agent, or the language model in this case, I can hard code, in a way, paste in the information like that. Yeah, user prompt is create a top view and so on, yeah, and I can run it. And like this, in a way, the agent is going to be able to generate certain enhanced prompt and so on, yeah. I can ask it in a way how to generate it and so on. Okay. But this is not something very flexible because, again, if I want this to be a sort of tool, a sort of agent that I can connect to other services later, I need to set it up in a way that it allows for inputs through the input here component. So I'm going to switch it to chat. And the only thing that I'll have to do now here, I'll have to make sure that I'm connecting the outputs of the chat, the output of the chat from here. I have to connect it to the agent block, yeah. And the way I connect that, you just press or set here at, and once you type in at, you'll see you have all the inputs and all the outputs that the input block it's outputting. So in this case, in case that I'm also sharing some or sending some files, I can grab, you know, those files, or I can capture them. Or if I'm just sending the input like a text, I can select that, yeah. Conversation ID, that's also could be important because if I start to nest different kind of agents and I have multi-agent kind of multiple agents interacting, it might be relevant in a way to know like which conversation was, and I can search in a way for things and so on, yeah. So I'm going to then select just input because that's going to be the prompt. And I'm going to type it here. And now what's going to happen is that I'm going to get the prompt sent to the language model. And how do I know that I got the prompt? If I go here to in the console, I expand this, you'll see here, I can see now everything that was sent to as an input to the system, yeah? So the system prompt, the first value there, the system prompt is simply, you are a creative director helping with enhancing prompts for Midjourney. And then you have here the user prompt, what I sent in the chat, yeah? And then you have here the response of the agent, yeah? And here you can, I can go into details of what these are and that, yeah? I can also like force it in a way to respond in a certain way. I can say output only, you can say here important. Output only enhance. Okay. And like that, in a way, is going to output only the enhanced prompt. Okay. So these are like different kind of tricks in a way that you can play. But this one right now, although the name here is saying agent, don't get confused by that. That's the node type, but that doesn't make it an agent. Because right now, as you can see, we just have a system prompt, and we just sent an input prompt as a user. So that's pretty much what we are dealing with right now here. This is just an assistant. And this is not necessarily bad or good or bad, because depending on the task that I'm going to engage with, sometimes it makes sense just to use an assistant. I don't need an agent for everything, you know? And then as a user, as a designer, I have the freedom to choose in a way where to use what kind of capability in a way for that agent. So this is just an assistant. Yeah, we can even say this is assistant on, yeah, and we can minimize that. So let's see now what other types we have here. So how do we then create an agent? Because the other one is just an assistant. We just have a system prompt. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just duplicate this. I'm going to select it and then Control D, duplicate. And this is going to be agent. I'm going to call it agent, yeah. Now, what is going to make this be an agent is this aspect of tools, yeah. So if we are able to add tools now to this, so for example, if you click on this, you'll have all these kind of options that you can select from. And let's see, in a way, like, let's think about like what those tools are, yeah. So when we talk about tools, let's try to think about this kind of analogy of an artist. So if we say that you're an artist, like a tool, then it's pretty much just the material, the instruments, brushes, canvas, paint, palette knife, all those kind of like instruments that you have in a way available to you to help you paint, yeah? But having a full studio of all those kind of tools doesn't mean that you know how to use any of those tools, yeah? So here again, the tools then in Versur, you are going to be able to grab the tools and select them. And then from there, we'll see like just in a moment, like how that works, yeah? So here we can just select one. So let's say for now, I'm just going to create some images. We don't want to go into super advanced stuff yet. So as you can see, when I'm dropping in the generator tool, it's going to have most of like the text to image models that are out there in case that, you know, we have to bring other kind of models, that's fine, you know. But for me, it was always this kind of question, you know, this kind of issue of, do I have to always keep up with every single tiny model that is being released on the market? And those of you that have been following this kind of space, it's super, like every single month, probably you can point to another amazing model that came out. And I think for us as users, suddenly to be able to learn again every single trick for every single model, that's really a kind of tedious work. So for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I think it's more reasonable to have an agent that is figuring out how to use those tools rather than me as a human figuring out all those. So then here, I can simply just close this. I don't have to select anything, although by default, you have selected Flux, but I can just minimize it. And then I can allow the agent by itself to figure out, to decide what to do with that tool. Now you have here, you see, you have these kind of options, and I want to go back to presentation here. You see, you have these kind of options of auto, force, and none. And what these are doing is, if you have the tool set to auto, then the agent, you allow the agent to decide if that tool is relevant to the user prompt. So you give, in a way, the agent that optionality in a way. If you have it forced, then simply you're saying you have to use it no matter what, even if it's not relevant to the user's prompt, you're going to have to use that tool. And then if you have it set to none, you're pretty much going to say just ignore it. You're not going to even see those kind of tools. So now let's see what's happening if I'm sending the same kind of prompt. I'm sending the same kind of prompt to this new agent. Sorry, I'm moving the wrong mouse. There you go. So we have both of them running. Okay, so agent 2 right now, let's see. What did I input here? I just said create a top-down area view. So right now it seems like it's not considering it to be relevant. So I'm going to just say force, and let's try again. Okay, so right now, as you can see, like what's happening, I'm trying in a way to make it run, and it's not running. And we might wonder in a way why is that? Why it's doing this? So what's happening is that just because I have tools, does that mean that I know how to use those tools? Yeah. For example, as a user or as an artist, if you continue this analogy here, just because I have those kind of instruments and those kind of tools available to me, that doesn't mean that I know how to properly use those instruments. So that's where then this kind of idea of skills, where's the skills? Okay. I think I jumped over skills. Sorry, there you go. That's where, okay, so here, unfortunately, I have the wrong information there. But this is where the idea of skills comes into play. So what a skill is just a set of instructions then that the agent needs to have to know how to use the actual tools, yeah? So you can say, okay, you're going to use the tool this way because this is a paintbrush, so you have to use the tool this way or that way. And then, further than if we think about it, we also have this kind of aspect of this is how a skill looks like, yeah. And further than you also can say, well, it's not enough just to define a skill as an artist. I also have to know perhaps which is the style that I'm trying to create in. So then I need to have almost like a sort of manual reference that I can give in a way to this agent to know how to properly use the tools and how to properly generate certain things. And how we define those, we have over here. Oh, sorry. We have skills, yeah? So I can select in a way the skills here, and I can select manuals. I can go through the list of manuals currently. There are some sort of manuals that are already predefined, and other manuals in a way that you can create yourself. So I can select in a way manuals in that kind of way. Or I can also create another tool called skill search and manual search. Yeah. Now, what's the difference between me having a tool that is called skill search versus a manual search? So what these are doing, like if I just have the skill defined here, let's say image filter skill versus brutalism, like as a style or something, then what's going to happen is that these are global kind of skills and manuals. So if my agent, let's say, engages in multiple steps, then it's very likely that that kind of top, like global kind of skill and style are going to be imposed on all the steps that the agent is going to run. Yeah. And why is that problematic? Because sometimes, if you think about it, sometimes if I'm asking an agent, you have to look at the site, you have to analyze the site, then you have to do some feasibility study, then you have to look for compliance code, then you have to propose to me a solution, a massing solution, and then you have to propose for me a design solution for it. If you think about every single step that I just described here, for every single step you need in real world, like in an architectural office, you need a different kind of person with a different kind of skill set. Somebody that's able to read the surveys and to understand how to do a survey properly, somebody that understands building compliance, somebody that knows how to think more abstract, like massing, a designer, and so on, yeah? So then why would we have like a global skill that it's imposed on all these phases and not have skills for every single phase? But the problem here is that if I want to make the agent autonomous, and allow it to decide by itself which skill to use when, I cannot define the steps and then assign for each step a skill, because that will mean then that I'm just predefining in a way the plan of the agent. So I'm not actually engaging then with an agent. So then to avoid that and to give the agent the freedom to actually explore and find itself which is the appropriate skill and the appropriate manual that it has to use for a specific task, then we just use here skill search and manual search. So what this tool is going to do is going to automatically find which are the steps, and then automatically find which are for each step which are the skills and the manuals it needs to use to run. Okay, so let me show you an example of that. I have it somewhere here. I see that there are certain questions. Perhaps I can address those questions in the chat. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm trying to find the one. Yeah, so here you see I have a similar setup where what I have is I have an aesthetic evaluator, I have a generator, I have a skill search, and I have a manual search. And then as a user, perhaps I'm just giving a more, just an instruction-based kind of, I have to create a mixed-use architectural design, conduct a critical evaluation of the input proposal. And then you see what's happening here. The agent starts then to create its own plan. And it's creating the plan. It's saying search skills for guidance on modern architecture design. So it's searching for skills. It's finding which is the skill that it needs in a way to solve that task. And then moves forward, generates the initial image, evaluate the design, structural aesthetics. It's searching for which are the skills that I need to evaluate, and which is the tool that I need to evaluate. So you see, that's why here you have skill search and you have aesthetic agent tool. Yeah. So the agent pretty much is just saying, okay, I'm going to figure out which is the plan based on the user prompt. And then it's going to say, okay, I'm going to now figure out which are the skills, the manuals, the tools that I need to use to solve this. Yeah. So what you see here, this order, the agent is not following this order. These are just the order of how I created the tools, but this is not the order that the agent is following. The agent has autonomy in a way to decide which tool to use where. Yeah, because you see here, like at the beginning, it started to create a generator tool. It started to generate an image, but then it started to evaluate that image, and it started to look at, can I improve that image? So that's why you have this kind of off sequence. So first you have a generator, then you have skill search, then you have agent, aesthetic agent, and then you have generator again. And here you see sometimes what's happening is that perhaps something fails, so it's just going to keep on trying in a way to get the tool kind of running. Yeah. So here let's just wait for it, and then we can look at certain things. In the meantime, perhaps I'm looking here in the chat. Yeah, so I do agree, and I really encourage, I'm reading the comment from YouTube, amazing work, but the dream house in the forest aesthetic is beginning to get a bit tired. This will have the potential to be applied to real people, materials, and places. Seems like the next step. And I totally agree. It's just that, this is an introductory kind of session. So I'm not going right now into the super technical aspects of how to evaluate Revit schedules or all those kind of things that the platform itself allows. Yeah. So right now we are using just a tool like the generator tool that creates the images, but there are other kind of tools that we can use, like even the CSV annotator and so on. Those could be used for actual practical things, like that could be like environmental kind of performance or other kind of aspects. So I do share your concern there, and the way that Versur it's designed is not designed just for images. It's kind of agnostic in that sense. It's up to you as a user how you think of building, in a way, the intelligence here. Similar with how with Grasshopper we can create like nonsensical shapes that are purely just sculptural shapes, or we can actually build real parametric models that helps us in a way, in a very concrete way, with the way that we are building and we are managing, in a way, complexity of buildings. So I think also Versur, it's in the same kind of direction. And just be on the lookout. I'm going to for sure share more and more, in a way, capabilities of what it can do. So how about attempts to sections and plans from each image? Those also, like, we can do them. So for example, I have here, let's see, I have here a prompt that I was using to test certain things. And right now, this is just image generation of floor plans, but you can also, okay, this one, but you can also like have the system evaluating a floor plan, looking at code compliance, based on code compliance, then figuring out like how to change that floor plan, how to fix the issues that are not compliant. Yeah. So there's a video that actually I put out about that. Is it? No, I think I just put the Revit one, but I think I showed it in the previous session 2 weeks ago. This kind of idea of you have an input image of a floor plan, and then you need to have the system, in a way, figuring out how to looking at a database, like a knowledge base, let's say Neufert or Architect's manual, and figuring out, in a way, what's the problem, in a way, with the floor plan. And then based on that, in a way, starts to give, in a way, certain solutions. Is there a question? Can we move it? Okay. All right, so in this case here, you see, like right now, I'm just waiting for this. Like I'm just asked like for a mixed use project. Yeah, it described roughly, in a way, certain things. And then the system is just figuring out, or the agent, it's just figuring out, as you can see here, design a ultra-modern mixed-use project with smooth and edgy facade elements. And then for that, okay, it's creating a plan, which is the plan. I have to search architectural design skills for relevant principles on ultra-modern mixed-use projects. Search manuals for guidance on smooth fillet transitions and facade design. Conduct a structural analysis. Was that structural analysis, architectural analysis, sorry. And then, it keeps on going further down, in a way, the plan, yeah. And right now we are just at the part where it's generating 3 distinct image perspectives of the project. And in a moment, it's going to start to look at elevations, axos, ground floor plan, typical floor plans, and so on, yeah. But these are, again, like, these are more on the generative side of things. What's interesting is when you start to say this agent has also a tool as a knowledge tool, and then that knowledge tool is simply the architect's manual, and like that, in a way, suddenly, like, it's not just generating things. You can ask it then to actually evaluate their outcomes, and then if the outcomes are nonsense, like, continue iterating until you generate outcomes that are actually reasonable. So this one, as you can see, like I haven't touched at all this. I haven't input anything beside "you are a useful assistant." That's the system prompt, yeah. So it's a extremely minimal kind of system prompt there. And what I did is I just added the tools, and I gave the agent the ability to choose by itself and to judge by itself which skills it needs to solve a problem, and also what manuals it needs, yeah. So right now we are a bit speculative, but that's fine. We can also think about things that are a bit more pragmatic. And we have here different kind of ways of how we deal with that, yeah. So as you can see right now, like all these are, we are just waiting for it to finish. So it's just generating different kind of perspectives, facades, axos, and then it's going to try to look at a floor plan. So right now we are at generating an axo. It's already generated the axo, so probably it's going to just in a second update here. And we are going to have the floor plan, the ground plan, and typical floor plan. Okay, so these are all done, like for sure this is Gen AI, which I wouldn't necessarily rely on it 100%, but you can in a way like give these kind of agents then ways of evaluating those results, give proper kind of skills of how to describe correctly a floor plan, how to evaluate the floor plan correctly, and you might find yourself in a way in a better position. Or like the more I'm going to develop this and advance it, you're going to be able to have tools that are actually dealing with Revit or AutoCAD kind of floor plans. So like that, you actually work on real floor plans, not image-generated kind of floor plans. Although these are, like I said, these are also like good. Like I know like some use cases you can look at OSHA, for example, safety, like on construction sites. So imagine that what you need is for that, you just need a system that you just take a couple of pictures and just ask a system, is this compliant, from a safety kind of perspective. And that's enough in a way to have a language model with vision to be able to tell you if that's correct. But it can, if you have it set up as an agent, it's able to also search a knowledge base and then give you exactly the section of the code where there's a problem or not. Yeah. So all this, in a way, we can wait for it. But I want to wait for it just because I want to show you then the idea of we can trace now every single decision that this agent took. We can trace it. And the aspect of traceability is something super relevant, especially if you want to use these tools, for more pragmatic kind of reasons, because you want to be able to verify if what the agent generated is actually correct, yeah. And very often, a lot of agents that you're engaging with online, or agents that come across, they come as just a service. Very often they are very opaque. They don't have this kind of traceability. You cannot see like why they decided certain things. So, but I think like for real case or real uses, real life uses, you need that kind of traceability. So I'm just waiting for the final one to finish, and let's see if we can then continue. So I see there are questions here. Is there access within the system to tutorials? So yeah, that's a good question, Adrian. I'm going to probably slowly put that together as well, like a page with documentations, and then the aspect of tutorials and so on. So yeah, right now, like these are the packages that it created. Are they the best? Probably not. So I wouldn't like rely on it because we don't have any specific evaluation for compliance and so on. Yeah. So these are just like then it's just an agent that is not actually very smart when it comes to floor plans. Yeah, because we don't have that kind of skill given to it. Okay, so what I want to show here is that as I was mentioning, all these kind of decisions that agents took are super important, yeah? And we want to be able to trace and to make sure that those decisions are correct. And you can go in here into the logs. And in logs, you have the option to visualize all the decision flow of the agent. Quite a few decisions and quite a few like steps that it took there. 34 steps, yeah. And as you can see, like as a user, I didn't tell it exactly what to do. I just had, this more generic, like design an ultra-modern mixed-use project, and then just a couple of architectural perhaps preferences like language or style-wise, smooth fillet transitions, and edge beveled facade structure combining straight and softened geometries. So that's the only kind of aesthetical preference that I ask for. And then from there, in a way, like I just ask for specific kind of architectural perspectives, drawings, and so on. Yeah? So out of that, the agent had to make the plan and then reason through that query of the user. And you see here all the steps. And then you can also go more in detail, and you can look into which one did we use? Is that agent 1 or agent 2? Yeah, agent 1. So you can go more in detail and see in a way each one, like which tool takes the most. So right now, the generator tool takes the most when it comes to time. And we can also go into details about to see like, okay, which were the inputs that we provided to this, which were the outputs. So all this, like, it's traceable, yeah. And also the reasoning of the agent, like I have to be careful with this, the plan, the goal of the plan, and so on, yeah. So all this, like I said, this is traceable. Okay. All right, are there some questions from people in the Zoom? Now, if there are no questions, or let me just scroll here to see. Okay. Now, you might wonder, like, how exactly do I create, my own skills? How do I create manuals? Because each practice probably has a different kind of way of doing things and a way of looking at things. So how can we encode that into our agent? So the way you're going to go about that, you can go here to add skill. And then here you have create skill, yeah? And once you go into create skill, you see here you have a Versur composer, an agent, that is going to assist you in a way in creating that. And what I mean by assisting you, you just have to explain to that agent like what you're trying to define as a skill. And then the agent will know like how to properly structure that skill. Yeah. So in that way, you don't have to wonder about like which is the proper structure of a skill or so on. Yeah. So I can say, I want to create skill that is looking at a couple and it knows how to analyze So right now I'm being very generic, but it can be specific with it. So I just press there play, and now you can see here you have a skill analyze images. So evaluate and interpret visual content from images, identify key features, themes, and potential insights. And then it's giving me, all the kind of important kind of sections that a skill should have. Your task, which is the task of the agent. So currently, there are certain systems that allow you also to have skills that you point them to specific kind of tools. Right now, Versur doesn't have that, but for sure, I'm going to think about bringing that in. And what I mean by that is there is a skill where you're telling always when you're doing, let's say, visual analysis of something, you always have to access these specific particular tools, because those tools are going to help you in a way to solve the problem or something else. So you give in a way that instruction of how to use the tool, but also the tools in a way that it has to use there. So here you see now I have the right structure of the skill, and what I can do is I can press create skill, and this is going to automatically now save that skill into your custom skills. And the cool part about it is that once you have it, you can reuse now the skill throughout your entire application and any kind of agents that you're going to build in the future. Yeah. So you can always call back in a way that skill. So that is really composable. These are building blocks that you can customize yourself. The same happens also with a manual, and always rely on, let's say, on the Versur composer. It's really helping, quite helpful there. So here you see we have residential style guide. So create style guide for materials. I know. Yeah. So here then as a user, for sure, I still have the option to go in and decide if this is correct or not. And as you can see here, we have the structure of the manual. We have the guidelines, we have the do's and don'ts, and references in case that, we also want to put the references from a knowledge base. We can also include there the reference from the knowledge base. So that always when it's running the skill, it's going to know that, okay, I also have to look at this document in the knowledge base. Okay. And we can do the same thing. We can just say create manual, and that's going to create it. Yeah. So now that manual is going to be in our list of manuals. You can always go back in and edit if you want to edit that, and then you just update, and you're good to go. Yeah. And the same happens also with tools. Also with tools, you can create your own tools, and these are Java script based. So you can switch between the schema, the output, how do you want that tool to format in a way the output information. And here you'll have the same thing. You have the Versur agent that is going to allow you to actually generate those. And the same also here. So if I have a particular kind of way of, a sort of script that I want to run to filter certain things out in a certain way, if I want to parse information in a certain way, I can literally have the script here defined as a tool, as a parser, let's say a CSV parser or something. Yeah. So I'm going to have it defined as a tool then. Or if I have a parser of documents or other kind of formats, yeah, I can have a script that I'm developing with Versur Composer for parsing, those kind of documents. And then that's going to be a tool now that your agent is going to have access to. Yeah. And you're going to be able to use that tool throughout the entire application and for all the agents that you're working with. Yeah. So this is something super, super cool, then. Yeah. It's really giving you freedom to kind of customize and define your own kind of tools without having necessarily to figure out now the entire infrastructure of agents and everything. Yeah. So that's the hope in a way that Versur then allows you to, as an architect, allows you to build in a way this kind of intelligences without necessarily having to deal with all the minutia of putting together the entire infrastructure of the agents and so on. Yeah. Is there a question? Somebody unmuted. All right, so perhaps what we can do now, let's try to see like what should we build? Perhaps we should build a simple RAG system. Like, let's see in a way how the knowledge base works. So I'm trying in a way to show now just a couple of functionality. We are not so much focused on building complete workflows, but a couple of functionalities. So you see in a way different kind of ways how you go with this. So let me just open here. So we are just going to build a knowledge RAG in a way. So RAG, it's retrieval of information. And I'm just going to show you then like how the system is able to extract. Perhaps, let's say you're using Neufert and you're saying, okay, I want to, very often like when you work with language models, problem with them is that they hallucinate. And very often you don't know if that the information that you got is actually correct. So it will be helpful in a way to ask a question and then also to see like where that information is from when it comes to the actual factual information. Yeah. So I'm going to create a new workflow. And this is going to be a chat because I want to be able to ask in a way, what's the proper size for parking, for example, yeah? And then I should have a system that looks through certain documents and it's able in a way to provide to me the correct information. So what I need for that, I need to connect now this to a knowledge base, yeah? So in our case, the way Versur is set up, you have the knowledge base over here. So this knowledge base, what allows you to do is allows you to upload quite a few types of documents slowly. Like, I'm going to keep on implementing other kind of functionality. So just bear with me. So here, for example, I just can select I can create a knowledge base, yeah, or I can upload some information into a knowledge base that I already have defined, yeah. So you see, I have theory knowledge base, and perhaps that one I'm just using it when I'm ideating certain things. Maybe I have certain things, design briefs, that's going to be about perhaps describing ideas of architecture and so on, and perhaps my agent will need in a way that kind of information to be able to reason. Or I have Neufert, or I have Revit. So Revit is then for different kind of like files that perhaps I can export from Revit, and then I can use them in here. So in my case, I have Revit, I have Neufert, I have building code, the international building code. But just to show you how to do it, I'm going to just say, this is the, let's say, exploration knowledge base. Yeah, you can give descriptions and so on. And then I can select here what I'm trying to upload. Yeah, so I'm going to just upload something random like construction documents or something. Yeah, perhaps let's put this one as construction documents. Okay, and I'm just going to say create. So now this is going to upload this, and what's going to do is what you see here. You have processing, and what that processing does, that's converting all the entire document into a vector embedding. So like that, in a way, when you're searching for information, you don't have the AI necessarily searching, as you're not giving the entire document to the language model. You just search specific keywords or specific phrases, and then there is a vector search that is being computed, and it's searching then the entire document, and it's finding in a way the relevant paragraphs and parts of that document without having to send the entire document to the language model. Yeah, because that will mean, like, you have international building code is 900 pages. Are you going to send 900 pages to the language model? You don't have that kind of context window for language models. So like this, you can really, like, just by semantic search, you can find in a way which is the closest information to what the user is asking for. Yeah. So that's how you upload in the knowledge base, and then that knowledge base, we can access it from here. So I can create now a block here, knowledge. It's like that, yeah. And here, I can define in a way what I want to do with this knowledge. So with this kind of knowledge block, do I want to search into the knowledge base, or do I want to create something to the knowledge base? And this is interesting because, like, you could have in a way processes that they generate data, and then you want in a way that data to become in a way the knowledge base, and then that new knowledge base is being used by other kind of agents and so on. Yeah. But in this case, we are just interested in, we are just going to search. We're just going to search the knowledge base. And what I have to define here, I have to define now which is the knowledge base that I want to use. Yeah. So you see I have construction documents, Revit, building code, design briefs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably use Neufert, just because I know that Neufert has that kind of information, or International Building Code also does the same thing. Yeah. Now here it's asking me also, like, which is the search query. So that will be like what the user is going to ask for. So for example, if I'm asking for, parking, which is a proper dimension for parking, that's going to be the query that I'm sending. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just then type here and I'm going to select the input of the input block. Yeah. So I'm going to stream, from this channel, from this chat, I'm going to stream the information, and it's going to get to this block. Okay. And then here, it's also asking us how many chunks of information do we want to extract from the knowledge base. Meaning that, we don't want to extract the entire knowledge base. We just want to extract the most relevant to the query. Yeah. So perhaps I'm going to say, I just want to have 5 results. Yeah. So let's try to run this. I'm going to put this as panel, just so that we can visualize. And let's run this to see what we get. Okay. What can you tell me about parking dimensions? Yeah. So right now it's searching in that knowledge base, and based on the knowledge base, that's what's finding about parking. Yeah. Now all this information, as you can see, like, probably is not the easiest for us to understand, but that's fine, because we can have agents that are parsing correctly the information and reading this information correctly. Okay. But what's important is that we were able to extract that information from the knowledge base. Yeah. So the knowledge base right now has Neufert as the entire book, the entire Neufert book. So it's searching there in Neufert that kind of information. Yeah. Now, mind you, like, I'm giving you just an example. This kind of information can be anything. Anything that knowledge base allows to be imported. You can search for anything. Yeah. If you have CSVs that describe environmental data or something, yeah, that's your knowledge base. So you can search now through that in the same kind of fashion, the same way I'm doing it here. So it's always a question then of, which are the formats. So right now here I have PDF, doc, TXT, CSV, XLS, Excel files, MD, PPT, which I think those are PowerPoint, HTML. So you can, in a way, like, you have quite a wide variety right now. But for sure, like, other formats will help as well. Okay. like a Revit kind of format that will help as well. Okay, so let's see now, what do we do? Like we need in a way we need to find a way to extract now this information and structure it perhaps in a way that makes sense. Yeah. So what I can do is I can create. I don't need necessarily an agent, and that's why I'm showing you this example where in Versur you can create agentic workflows if you want, but at the same in the same way you can also create just a workflow that has just a couple of blocks connected with a couple of AI assistants and so on. Yeah. So you don't look at it as it's either or. Yeah. It's up to the task in a way that you're trying to solve and the problem that you're trying to solve, and it gives you that flexibility at least to do it. So I'm going to create an agent block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give here a couple of instructions of how to deal perhaps with what we are trying to do. Yeah. So you are a, let's say, assistant and answer questions on the provided context on the knowledge base. Now, to make this easy, right now I'm just showing you how you do it, but for sure to make this more efficient, an idea will be to create a skill that actually instructs correctly an agent how to read these kind of chunks of data that you get from a knowledge base. So guidelines.
Can you please zoom in? Awesome, thanks.
So I'm going to just ask it to use only the information provided from the provided context to answer. So I'm trying to avoid, in a way, like having it making things up, although I'm giving it the correct information. If the context contains information, let's say, synthesize it. Into a clear answer. Yeah, I'm going to misspell a bit because I'm just trying to do it fast. Cite which part of the context used. Text doesn't say enough information. Say so. Yeah, sometimes we have to say these kind of things to models. All right. So again, this one is going to be just an assistant. I'm not going to make it an agent. Perhaps, it doesn't make sense right now. I'm just asking it to kind of sort through the chunk of information that we extracted from the knowledge base. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create this. I'm going to say the knowledge base context. And where do we have the knowledge base context? So I'm going to extract then the results from the knowledge base. Yeah. So I'm just specifying there, okay, this is going to be the context for knowledge base. I'm going to say that's the information. So that what that's going to do is going to take all this information from here and stream it inside here. Okay. And then the question, it has to know the question. user question. So what we define as the user question is what we have in the initial input, yeah? So answer the question based on the context above. Now, this is like I said, typically this will be, you'll have to create a skill for it because it's going to work better if you have to define a skill, proper structure and all that, than just a system prompt. And then also here, typically the way you'll do it, you'll use probably you'll use a, how do we call it? A context builder. Yeah, you'll use a context builder. And the reason why preferably you'll use a context builder, just because the context builder creates an appropriate kind of structure for the agent to actually understand correctly. So here, like, if you don't know how to structure it correctly, you might get it wrong, and then the result is not going to be that good. But if you use acknowledge base, then you have a appropriate kind of structure. But for now, we just do it like that. We don't want to go into all the details of that. Yeah. Okay. So now this should take care now of that. Yeah. We should take care of the information that we have here in the knowledge base and format it in a good way that we can understand. Yeah. So I can again display panel just so that we can see it here. By the way, if you press Shift and L, it's going to auto layout. It's going to organize them nicely. So into copy, paste. Yeah. So now when we look here, so the provided context from Neufert documentation gives a detailed specification for parking, dimensions, and arrangements. Here are some key points. And then you get, in a way, like specific, in a way, information there. Yeah. So I can, for sure, like fine-tune this one even more, or work a bit better with skills, and actually have, in a way, the agent itself searching through Neufert rather than me creating a knowledge base and so on. So all those things, are doable. But here, just a demo then, of how you extract that kind of information. Yeah. And it's a similar process also when I show that example of Revit, like how you look at schedules in Revit and analyze. I'm trying to find where I have that. And try to analyze, in a way, compliance for code compliance. It's a similar kind of process where I have to put those schedules into a knowledge base, and then my agent should be able to read those. And once it's able to read them, I think I have it here, Revit schedule, yeah. And this is something that also each one of you have access to on templates, yeah. So this one is a similar mechanism. It's just that rather than going through the data through the knowledge base, I'm uploading here the files, and then I have a data parser, an agent that's able to parse the data, and then from there you see where we start to search in the knowledge base the information. Yeah. So I have let's say for fire, for international building code, and also ADA. So like that, based on the user prompt, we are going to get, in a way, do we have to check for ADA? Do we have to check for fire code? Do we have to search for IBC? And then from there, in a way, you start to get, in a way, like I showed, the Revit kind of schedule analysis. Yeah. So it's a similar kind of mechanism. So are there some questions here? Okay, so okay, thank you, Claudia, for that question. So at the moment, yes, you don't have automatic selection of the models, but let me show you certain things that we do have that are quite important. So currently, if I'm working with things that are very pragmatic, I don't want necessarily a model that it's hallucinating a lot, yeah? Because if I deal with things like, you know, creative aspects, like creating design and so on, ideation, exploration and so on, I want the hallucinations of the models. Those are features, they are not bugs, yeah? But if I deal with something that is more pragmatic, like, you know, compliance code and all that, I don't want the model to make things up. So then I should be careful here with which is the kind of balance that I'm giving this model to be more deterministic or to be more generative. So more deterministic will mean it's more likely it's going to give you the same response again and again than if it's generative. Generative probably every single time is going to give you slightly different result, yeah? And it's going to hallucinate more. So you have this option in a way to control, depending on the kind of task that you're engaging in, you can control this kind of balance between being deterministic versus generative, yeah? And currently also you're going to have the option, right now I just have a couple of models present, but you're going to have the option to either like input your own model. I know I was talking with a couple of beta users, and they were saying that, you know, it would be beneficial to have a functionality to create your own kind of fine-tune language model, and then from there, in a way, to be able to, you know, control things in a certain way. So Angelica, I'm going to work on that. Yeah, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the presentation today, this is just beta version. There's a reason why it's beta. There are a lot of things that are still kind of there are certain features that perhaps they are going to find their way in the final, like the version that I'm opening to the public, or some that are not. But yeah, there are certain things that we still have to tighten up, like for sure would be good to have documentation. But what I'll say is perhaps look at this basic here kind of help, where you can see then, you know, like different kind of shortcuts that you can use. And I will just try to rely on the Versur agents that you have all over here, yeah? All these kind of agents that you can use to generate the content, because they are going to give you the correct formatting that the system is expecting. It's the same also here. If I have to format in a certain way the outputs, that's going to be there.
Daniel, could you please read out loud the questions, because many people are watching also on YouTube and they don't know what are you responding to. So that would be super helpful. Thanks.
So yeah, when I was talking about the models, there was a question asking, how are the AI models selected for specific tasks? How do you get set the best model for the right job? Do you need to specify each agent's model yourself, or are there specific models versus prefers for solving specific tasks? And the quality of results varies a lot between AI models. Some are better, but also more expensive to run. Is this all set manually? And to that question, I was saying that yes, at the moment, you have it set manually. You select the models, and you're selecting in a way how deterministic versus generative the model is going to be. So those are all like amazing idea that perhaps, yeah, if you think of the agent is able to figure out like which are the skills that it needs, then it should be able to figure out which is the model that it needs to solve. Sorry. Which are the models that it needs to solve certain things. I think that's probably a natural progression then where this goes. Sorry. Okay, so I think we can, let's see if I can show another one, and then we can wrap it up. Now, in many instances, in a way, to be able to create workflows that are agentic, you need, all these kind of functionalities of looping, functionality of, memory, to be able to record memory, to infuse knowledge and so on. So I think here, like when you look through the templates, you'll see that there are a couple of nodes that you're trying in a way to, it's almost like they're snippets of ideas that for sure, when you put them together into a bigger workflow, it's going to address, all these kind of questions. So for example, you have here, how do I deal with a router agent or a router agent? It's an agent that is able to decide in a way where certain actions have to be streamed or routed. And in Versur, something that probably let's just touch on it very briefly. If I start to create a lot of agents like this, you'll see that what's happening at the top of the agent, I start to have this kind of chips. You see these small chips here. And those chips, they are pretty much just relational kind of chips, yeah? It's just showing you what other blocks are connected to that specific block. But why that is important? Because sometimes, you're going to end up with this kind of massive workflows that you're working with. And let me just keep on adding here other blocks. Just so that to prove the point. Yeah, as you can see, you have all this. And what you have to understand is that all these relations, like as long as the chip is over the block, it means I have access to any output of these blocks. Yeah, I have access to all this. So if I have to refer back in this block, which is quite further down the row in the workflow, if I have to get again the input of the user, I can use only, I can easily just use a function like at, not this block, let's try another block. Let's say, so if I have an agent like this, I can just say at, and I'm going to see here all the relational kind of data, all the inputs from all the blocks that are downstream from this, yeah? So I have access in a way to all those kind of outputs. Now, in another session, I'm going to show you how to define your own outputs, because right now these are like just the default outputs of the blocks. But in case that, let's say I have an agent that generates, like I showed before, all these kind of images and floor plans and videos and other kind of formats, is there a way to split in a way those outputs and structure them so that I can access only the images, only the video, only the CSV or something like that, yeah? So I'm going to show that how we do that in a future session. But here then, what's important to know is that you have access to all the parameters or all the outputs that are part of that branch from this kind of graph, yeah? If you go further down the graph here, you have access to all that information, but you don't have access to this one, because this one, it's a separate branch, yeah? So if we are searching for agent 3 in here, agent 3 is not there, yeah? So agent 2 we have, actually, look, we have agent 3, but maybe it's an agent 3, it's misspelled, like we have it, yeah, you see you have it here, agent 3. So this one probably then we should call it agent 4, so that is no confusion. Okay, agent 5. So agent 5, we are not going to be able to see it in here, just because it's not on the same branch on that graph, yeah, on the graph that we are on with this block. Now this is important because we can, in Grasshopper, we end up with this kind of spaghetti kind of problem. And also like, you end up with spaghetti, and then you cannot really build up something that is reliable, in the sense of, what if I want to have one input with multiple outputs from different kind of blocks that are in different kind of positions in the graph? How am I going to do that? Because just connecting the connection to the block is not going to specify which is the specific kind of output that I want to extract from that connection. Yeah. So in this way, then here I can say, I want to get the content from the condition. I want to get the content from the agents. I want to get other kind of information. And then the agent, if this is an agent that evaluates that, it has to evaluate now all these kind of aspects. And based on that evaluation, then it's going to be able to give me a result, yeah? Or other kind of merge logic and so on, yeah? So the beauty of this is that you really can compose in a way this kind of knowledge, and it's almost like a sort of data management. In Grasshopper, I know we are dealing with data trees and so on. Here, mostly we are dealing in a way with how we parse in a way this kind of information and how we structure it for the agent, yeah. And mostly, like, you know, probably a skill that you need to know then when you work with agents, you have to understand perhaps like how JSON structure works. A lot of systems working with AI, AI agents, are using a JSON kind of format, yeah. So a JSON format is, for example, if I'm asking here to create an output, a specific structure of an output, I can say output h bullet point as one variable. Yeah, so this is going to create then a sort of JSON kind of structure that I'll be able then to extract. Yeah, and the idea is that once I have that, this is, again, that's what I mean, like data management. In Grasshopper, we are dealing with trees. Here we are dealing with this kind of JSON kind of nested structures. So I can now, you see, when I'm creating this, you see now I created for agent 1, I created the bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3 outputs. Yeah. So this is like what I was saying before, that I'm going to show this in a future session. The blocks, they come with their default kind of outputs, but you also have the flexibility to create your own type of variables depending on the task you're trying to solve. Yeah. And here, for example, to have the information splitted, like once it's coming out of the AI model, I think that's super valuable, because I can stream in a way correctly then the relevant information where it has to be streamed. Right now, it's only using to inject the output of a node. So the question was, can the @ symbol be used for loops, or is only for injecting one node into another? So right now, at the moment, it's just used for connecting the nodes from one to the other, like the outputs of a node. Am I correct to assume that the final commercial version will be based on AI credits, like a SaaS model with a base license? So that's going to be something that we have to determine what the model is going to be. But for sure, like, it's going to be based on token usage. And right now, like a lot of the AI agents that you have in Versur, I'm trying to optimize them to be as efficient as possible. But yeah, they are going to be like that kind of token-based kind of calculation. So that was a question for those from YouTube. Yeah. Okay, are there any questions? I think we are quite 2 hours now in, and I don't want to bore everyone.
There are a few questions in the chat from Adrian. She's asking, is there access within the system tutorials? Can the test size be within the system be adjusted to be larger?
Yeah, I answered that. answer that.
Okay,
So
how
right
are
now,
the beta testers limited on storage generation and runs?
so right now, like there is a limit.
Asking, is there access within the system tutorials? Can the test size be?
So right now there is a credit that I'm giving to beta users, and in case that you're running out of that credit, we can for sure like increase that credit. Yeah. But that's also like from my side, I'm looking like what Claudia was asking in a way, which is the token kind of usage and how that is going to be managed then as a platform. Now, a beautiful thing about it about this is that you could choose the option to say I'm going to go with models that Versur provides, or you can say I'm going to use my own API keys. So I'm just going to switch here to advanced mode. And once you have this advanced mode, you're going to have here at the bottom, where is that? I don't find it. Why did it happen? What happened with that? Okay. So this is a bug, probably. Let me find it if there's somewhere else. So I had this kind of option where when you're yeah, for some reason it's not here now. But the advanced mode allowed you to insert like your API key. So you have here this kind of option of defining your API keys. And then you can have like multiple kind of services that you're working with. And you just call in a way those services into Versur. Yeah? And this is like part of like, right now I'm answering the question to Claudio about like, how token usage is going to be calculated. So you can think of it like, well, I can use my own APIs for my own language models, but in the same way, you can also use APIs from other services. Like, I have a service that it's, calculating the graph in a floor plan or something. Yeah. So like that, I'm going to use that API through Versur, so I can embed it into the reasoning kind of system, and just the Versur then is going to call that API and it's going to give the response. Yeah, I think Luigi was having fun the past days with Blender, and last night he was also posting about Maya, which is like amazing. Luigi, like personally, I was just testing it with processing to make sure it works, but Luigi took it to a different level with Blender and also with Maya. So I think this idea, like the platform will allow you to connect to any kind of external service you want. Is that making sense, Claudio?
Yes, thank you. I'm just writing a follow-up question about that in a moment. No, maybe I can maybe speak it simpler. I think a good idea would be if you can optimize the full pipeline, because from my experience with other similar systems, when you start using models like Nano, or this kind of video models, the cost can add up quite fast.
Yeah.
So what would be great is to be able to do two things. First of all, to have a system where Versur selects the best, most affordable models for each step, because some steps may require a very basic model, whereas others may require more advanced ones, and also give you a kind of a pre-estimate of the cost before you run the flow, because otherwise I run some models where in some other tools where the cost and the final cost was very surprising to me, right? I had to pay $100 or $100 in one system, which is a lot of money if you don't expect it to be so, right? So it will be great if you can give the optimization that you can do automatically to select the best model, the cheapest one for each step, the best performing one versus price, and then show users exactly how much the run is going to cost based on that, because you can tell more or less, right? Of course, you cannot tell exactly because you don't know the token, but you can give an estimate, and that will be great for people to kind of understand and maybe even optimize. Yeah. And sometimes I can change it to something more performant for one step if I wanted to with my own thing. So, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. That's a big important thing. Like, I don't know, probably some of you follow this kind of craziness about OpenClaw, and you see people posting that in what 1 week they burned through like $1,600 for OpenClaw, and yes, Agentic could be amazing, like, and sounds amazing, but that aspect of, it's going to really burn a hole into your pocket, that's really true, yeah. So yeah, I'm going to for sure like look into how you can optimize for that. But I'm thinking some of you probably are familiar with Cursor, yeah, with code editor. I'm looking into like how to make a similar kind of model where you have maybe a base subscription, and even if you consume a lot of credit, it's not going to be the equivalent of the subscription itself. Yeah, for example, with a $20 subscription in Cursor, you're spending probably more, you're burning more tokens than $20. So they have and they also have this kind of auto mode where, this kind of smart model selection, it's at play. So those are for sure, certain things that I'm looking into. And also, like, I think that's also solved with tools, like rather than relying too heavily on AI models to process everything, you have to find like where you do need an AI model and where you don't, yeah. So in some aspects, yeah, just a code will do the same thing. A smart kind of algorithm will do the same thing. All right. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Daniel,
Yeah.
maybe I could just some general questions in a way pre everything actually. Before even AI came onto our horizon. In a sense, the challenge here is the way that we, especially architects, are so ocular-centric. In other words, the way we always judge things in terms of appearances. To the point that someone like Bernard Schummi, who was really not interested, he was trying to resist that in terms of his work. He was trying to look at not at that, but the kind of the uses and things of how things were experienced and so on and so on and so on. But the buildings in the end didn't look so great, right? That's where, in a sense, he kind of failed. But that was the project. And we're kind of caught up in that situation to the point that something. If you were to judge something in performative terms, like, I don't know, comfort, for example, I'm not sure if you could do that on this platform, something might be comfortable, but unless it looks comfortable, it doesn't appear comfortable to ourselves. So, for example, we have these chairs that your grandmother sits in, kind of called Knoll chairs. They make chairs, and they're pretty comfortable, but they don't look as comfortable as a Zaha sofa. So in kind of a way, we're always kind of conditioned by this ocular-centric lens that is kind of it is always, that is primarily the way we judge things. So in a sense, this comes back, and we see this again with these things. So the second question it's not, that's an observation in some ways, but the second question I've got is really how do you handle those aesthetic preferences? And the question here is could you in your prompts could you upload a prompt image in this system and define it in visual terms, because that might be an easier way of trying to describe an aesthetic outlook?
Yeah, for sure. Like right now you have in the knowledge base, you have also this kind of knowledge base that is mostly based on visuals, like images. So like that, in a way, you can have the system with a strong preference in a certain direction, yeah, and that is mostly described like visually. So, but now the question is like, which is the end model that you're going to use to generate the final representation of that building, because that's also something that has big limitations. If you have a model where you can input like visual only references, then probably it's more successful than if you have to figure out like how do you describe by text, certain things, yeah. So I think there are certain limitations only from the perspective of the current available tools, yeah. And for me, like then the focus is on how do you make Versur aware of the existing tools and how, in a way, to properly fine-tune prompts or instructions to actually get what the user wants to get from those kind of tools. Yeah. So it's not so much, I'm not on the end of like building the actual model myself, the image generator kind of tool. I think that ship is pretty much, there are a couple of big players that, you know, those are going to be the ones that are going to dictate, in a way, which are the state of the art models. And the only thing we can do is say, provide options for custom fine-tuning kind of models. Yeah. And then once you have that kind of fine-tuning, then yes, we can look into this kind of visual preferences, because with text it's very hard to describe certain things. Yeah. So I'll say that's how you do it. Now, the part of comfort and so on, I think there is a way, just like, you know, probably goes back to the discussion with Claudio about how much are you willing to burn in terms of tokens to allow the system to figure out, in a way, which is the balance between the visuals that is screaming kind of comfort and it's actually comfortable, you know. So I think those are certain like certain dynamics that for sure, you know, like right now we don't have the models that are able to address. So then we just have to find like which is a sort of workflow, a way of thinking about this, and how do we control this kind of models that we currently have to end up with a result that actually is more comfortable. Does that make sense, Neil?
Yeah, yes, it does. So I got some background noise. Just the other one thing I wanted to throw in there, though, is just as a comment from our conversations from yesterday, is the sense we're trying to move from representation to a kind of agentic system, which is a revolution in some ways, but we have to fall back on representation in the end. Somehow trying to escape that is quite a challenge, right?
Yeah, but you see, like this is like with architects, this is the challenge, you know, because if you're just showing the system, like the thinking of it, there is a very small number of architects that actually are interested in that. So then with architects, we have to always play this kind of game of, you know, representation data, and so on, because otherwise, like we are not going to be able to grasp it. So for example, if I'm just showing you this kind of graphs, like you're going to ask me to show you an image of how that end result looks like, because you cannot evaluate this without the image. Yeah. So somehow we are falling back to representation then. But I think that's still okay. Probably it's just a matter of, you know, it's quite new in a way, and probably we don't have yet the tools to, and tools here I'm talking about like not actual software tools. I'm talking about like, you know, conceptual kind of tools to think and to analyze and to understand, in a way, these kind of processes. And I think give it time, and probably we are going to figure out, we are going to understand how to think in terms of these kind of tools. In computation, many things like I don't need to have necessarily the visual. I can evaluate based on the logic, the behaviors, and so on. And I can, in a way, make a judgment call there just based on that without necessarily representation. But here, probably we don't have yet that kind of mental models, in a way, to understand how exactly these models operate yet. And it's just a matter of like building that intuition by using them, in a way, and building that intuition and forming that kind of mental model to kind of be able to reason, you know, without relying so heavily on representation only.
So we could, I mean, we could maybe wrap up now, Daniel. I don't know whether there are any more questions coming in, but I think we should, what we need to do, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something like that, is to have a follow-up session in more detail once everyone's started sort of playing around with this system and effectively trying to debug the system in some sense, you know. But you know, I think this is a very exciting session. It's something very novel. I think I was just talking about the visual. I think the way that it's so successful in some senses is it does what Grasshopper did, which is to visualize the algorithmic. So it kind of it's very powerful from that point of view. And let's see what it leads to. But it's, you know, I just want to congratulate you on getting involved in this territory and trying to produce a platform for an agentic architecture. And who knows how this is going to influence it, but I feel sure that it's going to be a hugely useful platform in many ways.
I think for us as architects, we have this kind of option to say we are going to give up and AI is going to take over, or we say how do we adapt and how do we evolve, and which are the new ways of thinking that we have to operate under when we interact now with these kind of systems. Because as you can see, like sometimes, yes, some of these tools, they are very wow, like they're very impressive, but they still lack in a way a lot of like understanding of certain aspects of the profession. And then I think as architects, it's a matter of then how do I orchestrate this? How do I think now in this kind of terms? How do I build a reasoning system rather than just a parametric system that has all the interdependencies and relationships and everything? That was the old model, I would say. Or actually, let's not call it the old model, because I don't think it's going to go away. It's just going to be complemented perhaps by this kind of new way of perhaps thinking about it. So I think that's where we have to look at as architects, like how do we evolve to this new age that we are in, age of AI and agentic AI, and we are going to have agents all over. And even right now, like I was showing to my students, that a lot of the content that you're interacting with today on social media, without you knowing, probably it's AI generated, and probably it's an AI agent, somebody that set up an agent that is just spewing out in a way all that. It's an agent that looks at competition, what's trending in a way in that kind of category, and then generating automatically the content, and then there it goes. So I think we are already like in that kind of age. It's just that for us as architects, how do we upgrade our thinking? Because right now we are still at the level of you're just going to create some images and that's it. But how can we evolve and start to build intelligences, that then in a way together with us, perhaps we start to design together, rather than just using AI as just a form of representation, something that gives us very fast an image. Can we think about intelligence? Can we think about architectural intelligence and so on that we are building? Can we think about like systems that are going to be able to look at ideas and designs that we have and give us kind of estimates and predictions in a way about how that space might be used or how might be enjoyed and so on. Are we there yet? No, we are not there. But I think there is a path in a way if we start to go that kind of direction of building kind of intelligences. And I don't think the path is to have one big AI model that kind of governs everything, because the reality is that as architects, we are so different and we operate in so different kind of conditions and contexts and so on, that each practice in a way has its own kind of sensibility and take. And for sure, there are certain things in practice that overlap, because I know that, that's also an argument that there are many aspects that are overlapping in architecture. But I think also there are parts that are unique to each practice.
Yeah, just a final comment. I think what is interesting is, so we become augmented by these other intelligences, and I've always been struck by that very early research that was done back in 2023 on ChatGPT, where they showed that it improved the quality of the output by 40%, the speed by 25%, and so on and so on and so on, all these different things. And in some ways, that's going to be the kind of key question if we're able to gauge the advantages of using this and how it can produce better projects. I think that it'll be most noticeable possibly in terms of, let's say, energy usage, possibly, where you could actually literally calibrate and judge what the improvement is. But it's that question of kind of how much it improves what we do. And I'm, as someone who's primarily a writer, I look at ChatGPT and the latest kind of version, whatever it is, and whatever they found out in 2023 is completely out of date because it's improved so much. The tool has improved so much. So what might have been true in 2023 is no longer the case. And it is really having an impact on those things. And I think, therefore, to be able to to then corroborate this and calibrate the advantages of using this tool, that's going to be the significant thing to go and find out really what advantage it offers us. But I think it's potentially it's got enormous potential,
Yeah, I agree. Great.
And okay, so that sorry, go
ahead. Go ahead.
No. You go. You say what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I was saying that I agree. I think it's just a matter of like seeing having people using it, and I think once you start to use it and realize in a way how it works, you realize that it's although like we are very captivated by images, but for sure you start to realize that this is about like a reasoning kind of engine in a way. It's more than just generating images. But as architects, we are aiming in a way for a certain building, and then we represent the building in a certain way. Yeah. But this is just one case study. I think once user starts to look into how to use this as a reasoning system for controlling other kind of interfaces and how to interface with that, I think we are beyond than the realm of images. But I think this is images is the fastest in a way thing that people can hook on, and but like I said, yeah, also performance. I know you're saying about performance, and slowly I'm going to show like more examples of this is not just about image or video. This is a reasoning kind of engine that is going to allow you to connect all these kind of tools and platforms that you're engaging with in a quite seamless way.
Yeah. No, I'm not supporting image. I wrote a book on aesthetics of architecture years ago critiquing that, but I'm just saying that is a factor, especially for architects. We privilege that, we're prejudiced in a certain sort of way, and that remains a concern in here. But one thing I do think is that some of these I think with Grasshopper, and I've just seen a comment from Arturo Tedeschi in the chat. With Grasshopper, really what happened was it was set up, and then the community kind of took hold of the challenge and started sort of elaborating, developing, and doing plugins and whatever else. So, and I think this is hopefully is going to be the case here. So I just wanted to kind of also thank those who've kind of been giving Claudio and others been giving feedback in this world. Claudio's got his hand up.
I think that's the balancing way, that the balancing act, because from my end, I have to make it open-ended enough that that people are not using it just the way that I thought that is going to be used, but people kind of find novel ways of using it. And I was giving a shout out to Luigi, because Luigi was like, for the past 3-4 days, he was already pushing it in a direction that personally I haven't thought of it like that. I shared like in the templates, I shared an example of how to control a parameterized kind of system. Sorry, parameterized system using Versur. But Luigi took it to a different kind of level, how he started to combine in a way Versur with Blender. And I think that's where, for me, it's the fascinating part, where I'm trying in a way to hold back my own kind of design sensibilities, because I'm also a designer. And for sure, I have a strong bias and preferences in a certain direction. But how do you create something that it's versatile enough, that allows, in a way, architects to think with it and develop, in a way, thinking kind of systems, I think that's where this fascinating part is. And probably that's where, the make or break it is,
I mean, just briefly, the famous case of this, of course, was the mobile phone. It was developed for rich businessmen, and then the point came when the rich businessmen gave the phone to their daughters going out in the evening, said, "Give us a call, I'll come and pick you up." Then the usage changed in a very unpredictable way, and all of a sudden the market opened up. So we can predict what a tool can do. We can't predict how people are going to be able to, how the people are going to use it. Claudio's got his hand up.
So first of all, Daniel, I think what you've done, it's amazing. And I think it's one of them, if not the most complex, the implementation of such a system that I've seen. I think it's not only for architecture, but actually in general for AI, I think it's an important step forward, in the sense of it can, like you said, if you can allow this kind of human in the middle type of approach, which I think is missing a lot now. People are tending to rely more and more on automation, but that's a big problem because they lose control. I think what you have here gives back that control in some form, and actually gives more control than most system would provide. And I think to answer Neil, I think this is a way to resurrect the architect as a different type of layer in the design process, because we're not, yes, we control the input and the outputs in visual form maybe, but this can go much deeper than that because it can implement such complex systems. I think it's also going to evolve, like you mentioned. I've seen the experiments that were already done. I think it can evolve in such wonderful ways, but I think this is I would say, very impressive first step towards building something as a different way to, to approach design, but not only design, to approach, let's say, generative work in general. So I think it's amazing. I would like to continue the discussion because I think there is a lot of, I see a lot of amazing stuff which probably nobody thought about in this structured form. So I think this is a very nice thing you've done, structuring this in a way that it can be flexible enough, open-ended enough, but also give you this kind of complete end result. I was impressed with the creation of a, say, competition type of poster in a matter of minutes, and potentially having all of the, let's say, not only the aesthetics, but also other type of layers in behind the scenes. So I think, again, amazing work, and looking forward to see how this evolves. So congratulations.
Thank you, Claudio.
So I think you're the victim of your own success here, Daniel, because you predicted we go for about just over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, almost 2.5 hours. So, but I think also it does point towards the fact that we must bring you back on the platform and to deal with this kind of the second level of tutorials, because I think it's clear that this has got lots of potential, and the team here, the support team here, are testing it out, eager to test it out, to see how, what level we can take this to. But this is really quite a historic sort of move, I think. In any way, it's historic, has got huge potential, and let's just hope that it reaches that potential. So anyway, thank you, Daniel, for this astonishing presentation and the hard work that you've got into Versur. It's really became very clear how challenging this was. Thank you to the Digital Futures team over in Thailand for helping to stream it. Thank you. And everything goes into this. There's a lot of making the posters and God knows what else in Digital Futures. Thanks to the team who did that. And we look forward to another session in a few weeks' time, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm looking forward how people are going to use it. Yeah. Just have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Thank you, everyone.